How's it going, everyone? It's Tommy from Weather SpongeBob. Today is March 16th, 2021, and today we're obviously going to focus on the potentially major tornado outbreak that could happen as early as tomorrow for the southeast and will impact a lot of you guys throughout the southeast states, even along the Atlantic coast. And we'll also talk about the potential snowstorm that could happen in the Northeast later this week. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by taking a look at the GFS model and its current forecast map, the surface-based CAPE or surface-based CAPE. And what this means is, and what CAPE means is pretty much the convective available potential energy, which pretty much represents how much potential energy there is for convection and how conducive is that energy for convection. And the more you see the grays and the blues, that means there's a higher potential for convection to occur since it's in a more conducive environment, and it gives a really good representation of where all that convection will be and how much energy and how much exact energy there will be for just very strong convection to occur with very buoyant air molecules and very strong updrafts. And it really gives a good representation of where we could expect where exactly thunderstorms form. So if we take a look at its forecast right now, you see that a lot of the convection is right around the Gulf of Mexico, which is just a recipe for disaster, because when we're seeing all this potential convective energy towards the Gulf of Mexico, where the water is already very warm and the temperatures are very warm and there's just an abundance of water the atmosphere could absorb, it really will help create a ton of severe weather, since there's so much potential energy to create those updrafts that would create just very high cloud tops that would create very supercell thunderstorms throughout the southeast. And you see that eventually moves north as a result of an oncoming jet stream dip, which is going to sort of shift the winds for more from a southwesterly direction, which will bring that convective energy further northward. And you see in portions of Texas, right around southern Texas, you're in the yellows, which means that there's very high potential convective energy located right around here, where you see it's at 2,410 joules per kilogram, which is just a lot of convective energy when we're talking about a number that high. And then if we continue to move forward, you see that convective energy continues to move eastward. So right around this area, around a day from now, this is where you should expect the most thunderstorm activity and just a lot of supercell thunderstorms, which I think a lot of them will be severe at times, since a lot of these thunderstorms, one of the things that makes them very severe is just how strong the convection is, how strong the updrafts is. And that's pretty much how thunderstorms form, is just very strong updrafts and very strong convective energy, which creates the wind as a result of it. It creates the upper level winds, the wind shear, to potentially create tornadoes as well as hail, large hail. So as a result of this potential energy, there's just going to be a lot of severe weather associated with this storm. And you see that this convective energy isn't anywhere in the United States besides the southeast, where it's just going to be very strong, and we're going to see a lot of severe weather as a result of this. And then you see as it moves eastward, it eventually does slow down, as there isn't as much convection or unstable air as this moves further eastward. And however, there's still certainly the chance of some severe weather, because there's still going to be a decent amount of available convective potential energy right around the southeast coast. So you guys need to keep in mind that. And you might be wondering what's causing all of this potential energy right around the southeast. And to figure that out, we need to look at the 2-meter temperature anomaly, because it gives a really good representation of how much unstable air will be in the atmosphere heading forward. So if we start right around this point, you see that a lot of the southeast is under very warmer than average temperatures for the most part, and especially warmer in Alabama and extending through Mississippi. However, obviously that will quickly change because there's going to be a low that's going to move through the Midwest and eventually into the Southeast. And behind this low, there's a lot of cold Arctic air, and there's enough of a jet stream dip bringing down cooler than average temperatures on the western half of this low pressure systems. And as it moves further eastward, you see the temperatures behind it are well below average. Jet stream dip is bringing a lot of that Arctic air further southward, and as a result, we're seeing just a lot temperatures a lot colder than average, and it's interacting with temperatures that are much warmer than average, which pretty much sets the stage for just very strong instability in this region. And this instability is forcing a lot of that warm air further upwards, and warm air holds more water than cold air because warm air has because warm air molecules are always moving. There's always space when the air molecules are always moving, as opposed to, let's say, a cold air mass where the air molecules are stagnated and there isn't much space for it to hold much water vapor. So as a result, this very humid and warm air will be forced upwards as a result of this denser and less and drier air behind it. And since the contrast is so evident right around this area, it's gonna force a lot of warm air to rise up rapidly, and that's where it creates a threat of severe weather. When we see just strong we just see strong upper level winds in the atmosphere as a result of the unstable air, and we do see strong updrafts which induce some of the damaging winds associated with some of these severe thunderstorms, as well as large hail and tornadoes. And you see that the unstable air eventually extends further and further, and then we see a negative tilt where we see the warmer than average temperatures above, just north of the cooler than average temperatures. And when we see a negative tilt like this, it's just a recipe for disaster and pretty much is asking for a severe weather threat in the southeast. And as we continue to move forward, the unstable air will eventually weaken as it moves further and further eastward, since the jet stream dip won't be as pronounced. However, there still will be just enough unstable air to bring severe weather to the south and east. And you might be wondering what are the chances of tornadoes as a result of this instability? So let's actually take a look at the NAM model, which shows a significant tornado parameter, which gives a good idea of the chance of a tornado that could happen in your area. And this, as of right now, you see most of the United States has very little chance of a tornado. Maybe in Mississippi and Louisiana right now, but it's way too small to even consider it any sort of major threat. However, if we continue to move forward, this isn't loading correctly, but let me try refreshing it so you guys see how the NAM model is taking the tornado parameter forecast. So here, okay, there we go. And if we take a look at that, you see that we begin to see the chances increase towards Texas once this low pressure system comes closer to the east and interacts more with that warmer air, creating an unstable environment. And you see that the chance rapidly increases further and further along the forecast run, where we do see the oranges, we do see the reds, which represent a higher than usual chance of a tornado. And you see that we're around you're at a 2.5 threshold when it comes to a significant tornado parameter, and that's a pretty high number, all things considered, and it's not something you see a lot with this forecast model. And you see the tornado chance even increases close to 4, which is just very strong and just is extremely dangerous and scary to look at when we're seeing a tornado parameter at that high of a threshold. And this threshold continues well into Mississippi and Alabama, where some areas are well above the 3 and approaching 4, threshold of 4, which is just very high and definitely does give a good chance of a tornado. And then you see eventually, as the unstable air does weaken as a result of the jet stream winds flattening, we're also going to see the chances of a tornado drop as a result, but they're still will be a slight chance, I'd say, along the coast of the Atlantic. So do not underestimate this if you're in North Carolina, South Carolina, and along the coast of Georgia, such as Savannah, Georgia, because you definitely could still be in the threat of a large tornado in those areas. So just keep that in mind that you're still have a very good chance of a tornado with this storm. And the European model is also agreeing with this forecast. If we take a look at what the European model's radar forecast when it comes to this next storm, you're going to see that there's a low pressure that's going to move further eastward and interact with the very warm Gulf of Mexico air and water vapor, and you're going to see it's going to intensify quite a bit, and we do see a squall line of thunderstorms along the southeastern half quarter of this storm, and we do see a dry air on the western side, as is pretty much a typical mid-latitude cyclone, where we do see the precipitation on the eastern side, and we do see a lot of convection as well on the northwestern side, where a lot of cold air is located and a lot of lift is going on in the atmosphere. So you see that the thunderstorms begin to develop right around Texas, middle Texas. So if you're in Texas, you still could be in the pretty much the path of severe weather, so you need to keep a close eye on that. And currently there's expected to be a long band of thunderstorms that are going to form along this cold front moving through the United States, southeast United States. So it's going to be sort of like a big squall line, or maybe a derecho event, which would definitely be devastating. We do not want to see a derecho type thunderstorm event, but it's becoming more and more likely because of how much unstable air there's going to be in this region, which is going to pretty much be asking for a lot of potential lift in the atmosphere and a lot of potential convective energy in this region, and just a lot of vorticity as a result of the strong instability located in this region, which is going to induce tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds, which I think is pretty much highly likely at this point. There isn't really a chance it's going to change anytime soon. There's just while there could maybe be some changes regarding how much unstable air there will be, how much cold air will be behind this low pressure system, which could change maybe how much tornadoes or how much supercell thunderstorms you may receive. I think more likely than not, there's going to be a major severe weather threat and potentially a major tornado outbreak out of this, unfortunately, which I do not want to say, because tornadoes are very deadly and I don't want to see anyone go through that. But unfortunately, it seems like this will be the case with this low pressure system, and this will extend even further and further eastward. If we were to take a look at the Futurecast radar to really give a good idea of when these thunderstorms should form, so this should begin right around tonight throughout Texas, where we do see the first bands of thunderstorms form very late on Tuesday and very early on Wednesday, in the overnight hours of Wednesday. And we do see thunderstorms form around Arkansas and extending to Kansas as well. And we do see a little bit of snow in Colorado and New Mexico, but it isn't anything major, since there isn't enough cold air to induce a lot of snow activity in those regions. But you see that as we head forward into the afternoon, into noontime, we do see thunderstorm activity move further northward. But I'd say north. If you're more north than, let's say, Paducah, Kentucky, the chances of severe weather are limited, because there just won't be enough warm air or enough convective potential energy as a result of the lack of warm air to interact with the cold air. So the unstable air won't be strong enough to make it a major severe weather threat if you're right around at least north of Louisville, Kentucky. But you still want to keep a close eye on it, because there's still certainly a chance of severe weather right around the Ohio River Valley, even though the chances are limited, and there could be a flash flooding threat as well, so watch out for that. But if we head forward into the afternoon, during the afternoon, pretty much the southeast had most of the day to heat up as a result of the shortwave radiation from the sun. As the shortwave radiation hits the earth, hits the surface, we begin to see the air molecules start to move around more, have more potential energy, and that really sets the stage for what will be a major severe weather threat once this cold air interacts with the very warm air, where daytime heating pretty much created a lot of energy for these thunderstorms to form. And you see the squall line begins right to form right around the 3 p.m. hour, where the squall line is throughout moving through Arkansas and Louisiana, and it will be the worst, I'd say, Wednesday afternoon to the evening, where in Mississippi it should be the worst for you guys Wednesday evening, and this extends to a lot of Missouri and Tennessee as well. And as far south as Louisiana and New Orleans could get involved, and then we see a well-defined squall line move through Mississippi and Alabama headed into Thursday, very early Thursday, and it eventually weakens as a result of the lack of unstable air, thanks to the sun going down, obviously, and a lot of that heat going out into space, where there isn't, where pretty much it takes away a lot of unstable air in this region. However, there still could be a chance of a newly formed area of thunderstorms headed into Thursday afternoon, where severe weather could also be a threat along the southeast Atlantic coast. So in terms of the severe weather threat you guys should be expecting throughout the Midwest over the next several days. So let's take a look at day one, which is pretty much the severe weather forecast for today. And you see that there's a moderate chance of severe weather throughout Texas and Oklahoma and Kansas, and even extending to northern Louisiana and southern Arkansas. However, this won't be anywhere near what we will see further in the southeast, but it's still something to definitely be aware of throughout the southern Midwest states, especially towards Oklahoma, where the severe weather risk is enhanced, which means it's a higher chance of severe weather occurring in that region, and it could be more potent in those regions of severe thunderstorms. So you guys need to pay close attention to this, be at least aware of this, because there's still a good chance of severe weather occurring in your area throughout Texas and throughout Oklahoma as well. In terms of the tornado threat, it's mostly slight for the most part. There isn't going to be enough wind shear during today to really induce a lot of tornadic activity. So the chances of tornadoes are very minimal for today, but that will quickly change headed into tomorrow and into the next day as well. And then the wind chance does increase throughout Texas, Oklahoma, and extending to Kansas. And then the hail threat definitely is pretty high throughout Oklahoma, where you're in the enhanced risk. So you need to watch out for that throughout those states, and just be aware for today throughout the Midwest states, because those severe weather that those severe thunderstorms could cause some damage to your car, depending on whether it brings hail or damaging winds, and it still could mess up your plans for today. And then, however, the big day will be tomorrow, where you see a lot of Mississippi, a lot of Alabama, extending to Arkansas and Louisiana. We'll have a high, like National Weather Service likes to call it, a moderate chance of severe weather, which pretty much means it's a likely chance they're going to experience severe weather, when the National Weather Service is talking about a moderate chance. And this will involve large hail, damaging winds, and possibly a very strong tornado. So you guys right around this area need to pay close attention to this. Make sure to prepare for a damaging wind threat, a large hail threat. Make sure to bring those loose things inside, because they could easily blow around it during like 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts. And you also want to have a plan in case a tornado does form or come very close or right over your area, because there's certainly a good chance of a tornado in your area, and you need to pay close attention to this right around the red area, and even extending to the orange area, where severe weather could definitely be the issue there as well. And outside of that, the chances do lower, as there's less unstable air just outside of this region. So as a result, there is a smaller chance of severe weather, but still at least be aware of it. But throughout the southeast, just prepare. This is going to be major, and I want you guys all to be safe, and make sure to at least prepare and have a plan ready in case a tornado or a damaging windstorm does come. And just make sure to prepare for a threat like this. And then extending to day 3, the severe weather threat does weaken a little bit, but there's still going to be a pretty good chance of severe weather throughout the Atlantic coast of the southeast, which extends North Carolina, most of South Carolina, and throughout Georgia as well. And then just slight chance of severe weather just to the north of it, but there's still a pretty good chance throughout the Atlantic states. So keep in mind that throughout the Atlantic coast as well, where I think tornadoes are also a possibility here as well, even though the threat won't be as strong as, let's say, tomorrow, where it's going to be the worst in Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, and Louisiana. So definitely keep a close eye on this. And another threat we need to keep in mind is the flooding, where there's a pretty high chance of a flash flood threat throughout Mississippi and Alabama, where the rain showers will be at its worst and the thunderstorm activity will be at its worst when it comes to rainfall. So we need to keep a close eye on that, because flooding is a leading cause of death in the United States, and you do not at all want to underestimate it. So in terms of my forecast map regarding what type of severe weather you should expect in each specific region throughout the eastern coast of the southeast, a major severe weather threat should be expected extreme right around the heart of the southeast. So just prepare, guys. I emphasize that. I want you guys to all be safe, and damaging winds and large hail are likely if you're within the black or the red region. So keep a close eye on that. And then you see in the orange region, there's a moderate severe weather chance. It does lower, but there's still a severe weather chance. So you need to keep a close eye on this. But outside of the severe weather threat, we also need to keep in track of the next snowstorm, where we could see 3 to 6 inches throughout New England, and this extends to maybe New York City as well, where you could see 1 to 3 inches of snow from this. It really all depends on how far south the ridge is by the time this low pressure system moves eastward. Because if the ridge is there by the time the low pressure system moves eastward, then most of the Northeast should experience snow. It won't be a ton of snow, but it will still be a good amount. And New England, this could maybe be major, because the European model is leaning on bringing maybe close to 6 inches or more of snow in some areas in New England. There's still time to iron the forecast out, but at this point, I'd say more likely than not, somewhere in the Northeast will experience some snow. As you see, some areas in New England could receive over 6 inches of snow, and this is close to Boston, and New York City is borderline right around the snow. So keep a close eye on this, because this snow threat could potentially be something to watch throughout the Northeast. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. And I hope you guys have a good day.